Exeter Water and Sewer Advisory Committee meeting. As chair of the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee, I'm declaring that an emergency exists, and I'm invoking the provisions of RSA 91-A:2, Roman numeral 3B. Federal, state, and local officials have determined the gatherings of 10 or more people pose a substantial risk to our community and its continuing efforts to combat the spread of COVID-19. In concurring with their determination, I also find that this meeting is imperative to the continued operation of town government and services, which are vital to public safety and confidence during this emergency. As such, this meeting will be conducted without a quorum of this body physically present in the same location. At this time, I also welcome members of the public accessing this meeting remotely. And even though this meeting is being conducted in a unique manner under unusual circumstances, the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. We'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member, if you could state your name and also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting. I will start. I'm Bob Kelly, the chair of the committee, and no one is in the room with me. Why don't we go alphabetically? So that would be Mark. Make sure.
Yeah, I'm Mark Fabian, committee member, and I'm alone in this room.
I'm David Michelson, also committee member, and I'm also alone in my living room.
I'm Kelly Warner. I'm a member of the committee, and I'm alone in my room.
I'm Carl Wickstrom. I am a member of the committee, and I am alone in my room.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. So we'll start the meeting by reviewing the abatement requests that were sent to us over the last few weeks by the Public Works personnel. We'll start in the order that they presented them. So we'll begin with Denise and James Landis, located at 19 Gill Street. They've made an application in early March regarding a broken spigot. If you review the file, you'll see that they indicated that there was a possibility that the spigot was broken during the winter with some falling ice. Does anyone have any comments or discussion regarding this abatement request?
I just wanted to let you know that she is in the meeting as well, if you wanted to let her speak.
Okay, yeah, why don't we do that? We'll have, so Denise is in the meeting. Yes, if we could, if she has anything to say in the beginning. Hi, Denise.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, it was a bizarre situation. I guess it must have been falling ice. The spigot is shaped like an oval, and apparently ice falling from the roof when we were out of town turned it on. This will not ever happen again because from now on, we will just turn off the water from inside the house. So it's not a possibility it will ever happen again. So I ask your help with this. And that's it.
Any comments? Thank you, Denise. I appreciate your input. Any comments from members of the committee? My assessment on this, we have an outdoor spigot. I think most people do. Fortunately, in my case, the roof slopes away from where the spigot is, so falling ice is a very low risk situation. My assessment would be that if people's spigots are in the path potentially of falling ice, that there is some responsibility on their part for protecting the spigot. And in this case, I would be I would think that an 80% abatement of the excess water and sewer would be potentially in order, in keeping with our revised policy of a month or so ago. Any comments or input on that approach?
Well, I would like to ask for a one-time 100% abatement. I can assure you that it will never happen again. And it was a bizarre circumstance. It seems to be, it just, I think it's coincidence. We had no idea that the spigot was located. Yeah, we had no idea that this was a possibility. It will never happen again. And, under these circumstances, when everyone is so hard hit, I would appreciate it if you could make a one-time easement or abatement, I would say. And I'm asking for 100% abatement with the assurance that won't happen again. We're going to turn it off from inside the house, so it's not even a possibility. Not only that, but I'm going to make sure that it's not a possibility from any other spigots on the outside of the house. And we've lived in this house for 26 years, so we are, a long time and residents and citizens. So.
Yeah, and the never happen again is fine. We appreciate that. This is a one-time and 10-year abatement anyway. So even if we gave it to you, you wouldn't be able to, to come back to us for 10 years. So does anybody on the committee have any comments about this request?
Yeah, I would comment that if there's any possibility of putting some sort of a protective cover over your spigots in the wintertime, whether the water's on or not, you still might want to protect them from falling ice in the future. I realize you've gone for 26 years without this happening, but it could still... you could still get a broken spigot even if you don't have the water spilling out. Just a suggestion, that's all.
I understand. I'll follow that suggestion. You can be sure of it. Thank you.
Anyone else on the committee have any comments on this? Molly,
I have a question. I'm sorry.
Just 1 minute. Molly, since you joined a touch late, could you introduce yourself and indicate if you're alone in the room?
Hi, everybody. Sorry about that. I am alone in my room, and I am Molly Cowan, the Select Board rep here.
Thank you. Carl?
If you could, please outline what the results were from, you said that the new policy of a month or so ago. I guess I missed the memo or whatever. Is it, what's the new policy on the... Is it on a percentage, and is there also a change in the maximum?
Yes, on both. What we had, I had sent out an email to the committee. Obviously, it was sort of at the beginning of all of this, the extraordinary events here, and so it may have been missed. But effectively, we just had the sense that a $500 limit was. Didn't really do much. We had obviously over the last year and a half seen some fairly extraordinary situations that weren't necessarily the homeowner's fault. And so we had batted around some ideas, and effectively we said that we would maximize up to a full abatement of the excess water and sewer usage. And then I had Public Works just show full, half, and then 80%. My feeling on the 80% was that if it was sort of a questionable situation and the homeowner should have some responsibility, then an 80% forgiveness as opposed to a full might be in order. 50%, again, so it'd be graded. Denise in this case is asking for full. So that's the new, there's no $500 limit on the abatement request, Carl, at this point. It can be anything we want to, up to a full abatement, again, of the excess usage over their normal average going back over the last year. Carl?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I did see that email as something you were going to propose, and I did not know. I guess I didn't see the email that was approved.
The select board thought it was a good idea. We're going to try it for basically for this year, sort of see how it goes, and see how the pandemic shakes out and how it fits into a long-term financial scenario, and then we'll make a reassessment toward the end of this year.
Okay, I would like to make a motion for the 80% abatement. And so we can move on.
May I ask a question?
Certainly.
I see my photo there. I don't know why it's not showing me live. I'm not sure I understand why. I mean, you feel that it's our responsibility, and I think this is not. And now that we know about it, we will take care of it. It was a fluke. I mean, I don't know what else to. That there was no negligence on our part. So that's why I'm asking for the 100%. And I guess my question is, how do you think that we would have been able to?
Well, as it happens, we have another abatement request on the agenda where the similar thing has happened, where a piece of ice reportedly has damaged the spigot. And I think, when I first proposed it, and Carl has suggested that the homeowner has some responsibility for protecting at-risk things like this. But I understand your point. Does anybody have a second to Carl's motion on providing an 80% abatement on the water and sewer?
So I'm wondering if we can do 100% on the sewer, because there was none of this water was used, went to the sewer, obviously, because it was all spilled outside, and then 80% on the water use, because that water was consumed and used by and leaked out. So there's no impact to the sewer for the full amount of the water, but there was an impact to the water use from the release.
Carl?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my original motion and make a motion to that effect that we do 100% on the water and 80% on the sewer. Excuse me, 100% on the sewer. Let me change that again. I make a motion that we make an abatement of 100% on the sewer portion and an 80% on the water portion.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Would you care to second that, Dave, since it was your idea?
Seconded, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We need to take a roll call vote. Sorry, Denise, but you're welcome to log off. But that's the motion is to provide 100% abatement on the excess sewer usage and 80% abatement on the excess water usage. I will vote aye on this motion. I think, Mark, your roll call vote. Unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'll vote aye as well.
Dave?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone. And I will get the revised approach to Public Works on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm leaving the meeting, and I just want to say thank you, and I appreciate your help. Thank you very much.
Thanks for logging in, Denise.
Bob, before we go on, Carl, your connection is pretty bad. I wonder if we should have you sign off and log back in.
He can't really fix it. It's because of the audio that he's using. The audio on his computer isn't working, and the headphones he has.
Oh, what a pain. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Sorry.
Second request is for Kathy Stickney.
Wait, before you go on in that order, we have two other attendees in the meeting. Maybe we should find out who those people are so we can do them first.
Okay.
Just an idea, timing wise.
One of them is a phone number, so we don't know who that is. We could let them both speak and say their name if the chair wishes to do so.
Is there a way to find out who they are first?
With the phone number, they would have to tell us who they are. The other person is, I don't know if there's a Joanne on the...
Joanne Petito.
Yep, so that's she's in here, and the person on the phone is raising their hand as well. So we could give them the ability to speak if you want, to find out who that is.
Sure. I guess we'll, since Joanne's fourth on the list, we'll roll the dice, and the person who's calling in will, why don't we have them identify themselves, and we'll go to their abatement request.
So they should be able to talk.
Are you?
Hi, Kathy Stickney.
Excellent. You're second on the agenda anyway, so how fortuitous. So can you just briefly talk about your request?
A detailed request. I think you have bill, and I have a property at 10 Arbor Street, and when I received my water bill from the town, it was unusually high. I asked the plumber, who also rents there, to check it out immediately, and he did, and he repaired the problem. He had been in the basement about a month earlier because I have him do annual servicing on the building, and a month earlier when he was in the basement didn't notice anything, but that damage happened, and the tenant did not mention anything to me. However, I did have it repaired immediately as soon as I found out about it.
Appreciate that.
Excuse me?
Do you have regular communication with the tenant, or do you pretty much rely on them to provide you information about what's going on inside the space?
I have regular communication with them, and now my son also lives in the building, and he also has regular, more frequent communication with them now too.
Right. You had indicated in your write-up that they are not paying rent currently, and so presumably, well, do they? The first question is, do they pay water and sewer utilities as part of their? Do they pay that, or do you pay that?
I pay all of that.
You pay the utilities, okay.
Yeah, I pay the water and the sewer, and yes, and they have been fortunate and gone back to work, and they have been able to pay me rent.
Well, that's good.
Yes, they've been very fortunate.
Indicate that the leak was in the basement. Where did the water go from the basement? Is there a drain into the sewer system down there, or did you have to get it pumped out?
There was a drain down there, and it drained.
Do you know if it's a storm drain or a sewer drain?
It's a dirt basement, so yeah.
Okay. Any thank you, Kathy. Appreciate it. Any comments from committee members on this? I mean, it sort of seems to me that this is a similar situation as the previous request. There should be some responsibility, whether it's the tenants or the landlords, on this, but it seems like the sewer was not impacted, so it might be reasonable to do a similar 100% sewer abatement and an 80% water abatement, unless someone has comments about that.
That makes sense.
I would be willing to make that motion that we abate 100% of the sewer, the excess sewer on this, and 80% of the excess water usage.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion by the members? All those in favor, I will start by saying aye. I vote yes to this motion. Mark?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you. We will pass this along, and if you're still on the phone, Kathy, we will be abating all of the excess sewer usage and 80% of the excess water usage on your next bill.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for calling in.
Bye.
Bye. So, Bob, if you want to patch in.
Sorry, excuse me. I believe Carl has his hand raised.
I just wanted to know if my changing of microphones has helped the situation any.
It has. Excellent. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. So could you guys patch in Miss Petito, please? You were there, Joanne? Joanne?
Looks like she's unmuted there. She should be able to speak.
Yep.
And now she has her hand up.
You can go ahead and speak, Joanne, if you have, just make sure you're unmuted.
And if you seem to have an issue with your audio, you could go to the agenda for the meeting on the town website and call in with a phone. Because it seems like you might be having an issue with your microphone on your computer, perhaps.
Okay, well, why don't we wait, see if Joanne can fix that or call in. And then we can get back to her after this next request. So the next item would be Kelly Hughes Karavich, 15 Arbor Street, number 2. Just to refresh, it seemed like again, falling ice seemed to turn on the hose bib, which I can see it breaking it off, but I'm not sure how the ice would actually turn it on. But it seems like a similar situation to the first one. If does anyone have any comments about this situation? Again, we would recommend for any listening or in future assessments that if next winter that they protect their outdoor spigots if they're in the path of falling ice, as Carl had suggested earlier.
And also often there's a way to turn it off inside.
Yes. Not that you're going to be using it outside anyway, so you might as well turn it off. Yes, I agree. So does everyone have sort of a consensus that this is a similar situation as the first ice situation? 100% of the sewer abatement and 80% of, does that work for everyone? I will make a motion in that regard. If I could have a second.
I second.
Thank you, Carl. I will start the roll call by saying yes to this motion. Mark?
Aye.
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Is Joanne with us now, Bob?
I believe we have her on the phone now. Just one moment.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Hello.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hi. Okay. How are you? Sorry about
Good.
that. I guess I had a problem with the computer.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all. So do you want to give just a brief overview of what your situation was? And we have the write-up in front of us.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, there isn't much more to it than that. We had received a couple of notices from the town about high water usage, and we actually tried but couldn't get a plumber to come to our home. So we repaired what we thought was the problem ourselves in the upstairs bathroom. And we got another notice saying we still had high water usage. So ultimately, we had someone from the town come out and check for leaks, and it was the other bathroom with a continuous leak that we just had no idea about. So we shut that water off to solve the problem immediately. And then a few weeks after that, we did get a plumber to come in and fix it.
Okay, so the high usage began in December, and you received a notice in late January, but then a second notice in late February. But at that time, you didn't know that there was a leak. Is that our understanding?
Right. Yeah, we had no idea. When we received the notice in late January, we suspected that it was the upstairs toilet because that one does sometimes run and you can hear it. So we tried calling a plumber, couldn't get anyone to come. So my husband replaced the flapper on that one, and we thought we were all set. We used the dye strips that they sent us, and It looked like it was okay. But we got another notice then a month later, and we realized that something was wrong. So, we still had no idea. And then when the person from the town came out, that toilet was just leaking continuously, and it wasn't something that you could hear or see. So when he noticed that, we just shut the water off because we couldn't fix it ourselves, and we weren't having any luck having anyone come to our house. But eventually, I believe the person from the town spoke to one of the local plumbers we had contacted. And when we called again, he came right out and fixed it for us.
I guess, why couldn't you get a plumber to come out? What was the reasons that were given to you?
Well, one person just never returned a call at all. We left numerous messages. The other person didn't respond. I eventually got to speak to him. I happened to catch him, and he asked me to send a picture of the inside of the tank, again, from the toilet that I suspected was leaking. And when he saw it, he just said, "Oh, that's really old. It's not worth repairing. Just go out and buy another toilet, and I can replace it." And that I didn't really feel comfortable doing that. So at that point, my husband replaced the flapper, and we thought that was what the problem was. And then when we got the next notice, we realized we better just have someone come to the house to see what was going on. And that's what had happened. And we actually found out later on that the person who we usually use as a plumber had a very serious health issue, and that's why he wasn't responding.
Okay, thank you.
And services like Router Man and those types of things, we have on occasion used them in the past, but they're so expensive. We really and we prefer to use a local person. We thought we would be someone locally.
Okay. Any comments from committee members?
Yeah, I just had a question. What's the normal lag time between when high water usage is noticed and when the town sends out a notice? Because it seems that there's about a month that passed before the property owner was alerted. Is that about normal, or is it possible for that to be any quicker than that?
Seems to be about normal. There's some has been discussion over the past few years as to what the new meters would actually be able to tell us and how quickly. And some of the let's say some of the support for the meters that was presented to us 5 years ago when we started the meter replacement program wasn't really part of it. It was sort of a wish list, but the module to have us have sort of a continuous review of people's usage and some sort of electronic flag that comes up is not, it's just not part of the current program. And with 3,600 users, it's just difficult for Public Works to be sitting there and on it. So a month is about average.
Okay. All right.
And so I think that's where when we did picked the 80% number, Russ and I had talked about an 80 to 90% number. We figured that there should be some forgiveness because obviously they're not going to know about it right away.
Right. So
there is a lag period. The thing that bothers me about this case is that it went on for 4 months. Having said that, it doesn't appear that the homeowner knew that there was a leak. So, I would be inclined to provide some abatement. I guess the question is what the level might be. If anyone has any input on that part of it. Any thoughts?
Yes. My thought is that I think there should be some abatement, as you said. I think 80% is a little bit too much in this case, given that there was so much time, and that it should be. My opinion is that this is a case where it should be half rather than 80%. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I would agree. Just looking at the data, I can forgive the, December and into January, there were some problems getting a plumber, things happen. The COVID thing started in late February, early March. Okay. But our Public Works folks went out there in March and ascertained that there was a leaky toilet, and it took another month to fix it. So I would agree. I mean, does everyone I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the leaking was fixed the day the person from the town came out on March 18th, because we shut off the water to that toilet. And then we were kind of reluctant by that point, we were reluctant to have people coming in and out of the house because of the coronavirus situation, and my husband is vulnerable because of health problems. So we figured we'd make do with one toilet upstairs. And then after a few weeks, we just decided, well, let's try calling a plumber again. And we did, and he called back the same day. And I believe that the technician who had come out to the house had contacted him in the interim. So the problem was fixed permanently. Well, at least it was fixed in April, but the leaking stopped the day the person came out. It was March 18th, I believe.
18th, right. Yeah, that was sort of right in the middle of social distancing and home isolation. So I understand that. I understand what you're saying, Carl. I think given that set of circumstances and the timing, maybe a 50%. An 80% abatement might be applicable in this case because of when it happened.
Yeah, the only issue I have is that they knew there was a leak and they fixed one leak, but they didn't check the entire house. Why not check the entire house for leaks?
Because they had a theory about why it was the upstairs one, because they heard a problem. So they heard the problem, the sound in the upstairs one, and then they thought they'd fixed it. Because they were trying to I can picture that, because I have trouble finding a plumber and I want a local person, and I'm trying to get people to return my calls. I understand that. So they tried to call somebody, and then they thought they'd fix the problem themselves because they heard a problem and then they didn't hear it. So then they thought they were done. It kind of makes sense.
Okay. Well, okay. You talked me into it.
If you look at the data download, it looks like, as Joanne said, on the 18th, their flow went down by half. So the big problem was fixed. It took them maybe another month to fix the toilet, to actually fix it, but it doesn't seem like that was a real big problem. It was the primary toilet that was the big problem.
Yeah, but that's not what Carl and I were talking about. They tried to fix the toilet that was not the problem before they.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
And it may have been a small problem. Sorry.
I still think that with the timing and everything, and with the health problems and people reluctant to, and I get that people are still going through that. So at that time in mid-March, I understand that. I would certainly be willing to entertain an 80% abatement in this case. Obviously, the homeowner still has some responsibility, but there are some extenuating circumstances. Mm-hmm. Is that a reasonable approach in this case?
Yeah, I would make a motion for an 80% abatement for water and sewer on this.
Thank you, Dave.
I'll second.
Oh, Carl can second it.
So it's been moved and seconded for an 80% abatement on the excess water and sewer usage. I will start by voting aye on this motion. Mark?
Yes.
Yes.
Kelly?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you. Joanne, if you're still with us, we will be presenting, you'll be getting an 80% abatement on water and sewer. Your water and sewer usage for that billing period.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for calling in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, the next one is, I'm sorry, go ahead, Carl.
One quick point. You told her an 80% abatement on water and sewer usage. You forgot to use the word excess.
I did.
I hope she understands that.
But that was the motion, so that's what it will be. So the next abatement request is 27 Brentwood Road. Robin Jones is shown to be a tenant, but was also the person requesting the abatement. So, well, I guess not. Well, it's hard to say. Somebody else owns the property. Robin is the tenant, but I'm not sure who's paying for the bill. Again, in this case, it looks like there was a high usage over the course of several months. Nothing was done about it for a period, and they found a leaky toilet. And due to some other situations, it says the tenant is facing financial hardship, although it does not say if the leak was actually fixed. Did I miss something there? Did anyone see if the I didn't see it?
It says somewhere that it was repaired. Well, it says under conclusion, it says that the water and sewer department believes that a leak occurred on the property and has been repaired.
Okay, but there was no documentation that
No, I didn't.
The data download does show that usage started to go down at the end of February, although not to previous levels. According to Shirley Murphy at the Public Works Department, she said that she had sent in addition to this data download, I think I sent the email to everyone, a subsequent data download into March and April. Appears like the usage has gone back down to their historical levels. It did, however, take somebody, whether it's the tenant or the owner, it took them 2 months to address it. in this case, it says that there's a sort of an ongoing financial hardship. But again, there was a 2-month lag. So I would think that I would like to say that this is a candidate for half abatement, but the financial hardship gives me a little pause. So I would be inclined possibly to do an 80%. Carl?
Yeah, I'm a little confused as to who's responsible for this. The tenant is the one putting in for the abatement, but the bill is in the owner's name. So who's actually having to pay this? And who's under the financial hardship, the owner or the tenant?
I don't know.
And it says that the owner got the 2 notices, but the tenant wasn't told about it after the first one, not until after the second one. It's weird.
Yeah, I think, if the owner is under hardship, why isn't he or she, I don't know who the owner is, submitting the request for abatement? And if the tenant is responsible for the water bill, why isn't it in the tenant's name? I don't know,
the owner's name. Yeah.
Why isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And the financial hardship and all that appears to be from the tenant, not the owner. The owner hasn't really weighed in, other than the reference in the request that the owner contacted the tenant about the excess usage letter.
Well, it's my opinion the owner is responsible for at least half of this.
Well, they're on the bill, so I would agree.
Yeah. So why is the tenant's financial situation have anything to do with this bill, unless there's something in their lease that says they will just pass along the utility bills? I don't know.
Well, but again,
I would like to get more information about the situation before you make a decision myself.
How's everyone feel about it? I'm sort of inclined to try to get a little more clarification as to who's actually paying the bill and what a financial hardship might impact, that person, whoever it is. Because if it's the owner and they didn't do anything for 2 months, then that's negligence and there would be no abatement. If it's the tenant and they weren't aware of the leak and they have a financial hardship, then there would be some level of abatement probably in the offing. So how do people feel about that?
That makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems to me, the tenant wouldn't be issuing this abatement request if they weren't implicated somehow. So it must be the tenant must be the one that has to pay the bill here. But I think we need to get more information on what that arrangement is and why the tenant doesn't have their name on the bill.
We could do it a couple different ways. The bill is fairly fresh, not even a month old. So, if they had to delay until, we could just tell the department not to, apply interest or anything like that until we review it again in July with more information. Or, we could have like a vote A and a vote B depending on what the answer was. But my inclination is, since the billing period just ended 3 weeks ago, is that we table this until July until we get more information.
I make a motion that we table it till July and with more information.
I will second that. Okay. Roll call vote. I will agree. Aye to table this until we get more information for a July review. Mark?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you. I will make the proper requests from Public Works and hopefully we'll get a little more information. Okay. So we don't have a lot of, the next one is the Exeter River Landing. You may recall that last fall, end of the summer and into the fall, they came to us requesting a revised meter approach. And what we ended up agreeing to with Public Works' input is that we have that they go on a sewer meter as opposed to a water meter for a variety of reasons. And that agreement with Public Works sign-off was included in your packet. Evidently, they are requesting retroactively an abatement to the beginning of last year, and actually going back into 18, for what is reported to be a high bill due to leaky pipes without really any documentation that goes along with that other than the billing statement. Public Works has intimated that if an abatement request is not made according to the policy within 90 days of Public Works notifying them of high usage, then it's not applicable. In this case, they thought maybe we wanted to talk about it since we were going through that whole meter discussion last fall, but to me, they don't really have anything to do with each other. The meter issue was just a way of being more efficient in the billing. In this case, they had leaky pipes, but they didn't seem to fix them, fix the leaky pipe situation until the second quarter. They didn't, because of the timing on this, Public Works wasn't able to actually come up with the paperwork on the usage, just on what the billing was. It looks like in the second quarter, there was a $44,000 bill, and all of their other bills averaged somewhere in the low $30,000. So there's roughly a $10,000 to $12,000 excess in the beginning of last year. Any comments?
Well, I wanted to ask, I think the discussion that happened last fall, part of the problem, as I understand it, was that because it's a large user, all these houses are grouped together under essentially one bill, then right. they're grouped into a much higher billing tier. Is that correct?
That is correct. They were tier 3, as opposed to being a residential tier 1, because they just had a master meter.
So adding a sewer meter doesn't really solve that problem. Is that correct? So they're still sitting with the same problem, which I really feel that that's very unfortunate, that all these people are having to pay a higher rate because of the way that this whole community is put together under one meter. So I guess there isn't anything in this abatement or really in the change in the meter that is solving that problem. So I'm just wondering, is there anything that can be done to try to address that problem for this community? Because that seems to be not very fair in my mind.
Well, I agree, except that I talked to Matt Berube, the managing engineer for Public Works, at length about this. And he said that the current billing software, because I think one thing we talked about as a committee was, can you take the number of take the bill or take the usage from the master meter and just divide it out? And he said that you can't really do that with the software, because it's sort of capricious. That's not really fair either, because if there's 1 or 2 or 10 people who are using a lot, then it punishes all the other people. And then, so he said that usually what we say is, if you want to take away the master meter in tier 3, then pay for individual meters to the units to get tier 1, which, as you can imagine, would likewise be very, very expensive. We gave Exeter River Landing that option to do that, and they opted to do the sewer meter for whatever reason. I mean, I agree. You know, neither of them are fair necessarily, but we don't really have a mechanism right now to divide it up by hand. Is really what it comes down to. So I guess the first issue is, do we, you know, them saying that the leak was due to leaky pipes. Okay. It says they've corrected the problem. So, you know, this situation predates by quite a bit. Predates our new policy, but you know, I guess we could be conciliatory if we wanted to. Carl, you had a comment?
Well, I'm just a little, I mean, there's no calculation of what the excess bill is here. We don't really even know how much abatement they're asking for. They cite the total bill.
Right.
And it's certainly, the excess is certainly not $150,000. It's not all excess. So,
correct.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know how much they're asking for here. I mean, looking at the data, it looks like it couldn't be more than about $15,000, which is still a lot of money, granted. But I can't see how we could possibly act just on this information if we wanted to.
What's interesting to me is that it looks like the $150 some odd thousand that's the bill at the end of September of last year. You know, they pretty much haven't paid their bill since the end of 2018, which is odd because the problem didn't appear to happen until the March-April timeframe. So I'm not quite sure why they're not paying their bill, one. And two, if the usage went down, you know, in June and July and thereafter, I don't know why they wouldn't pay that bill. So I think we need to either get more information or just deny the abatement because it doesn't appear like anything significant was wrong for most of the period and they should be paying their bill. Any observations about that? And we can push this forward and get more information from them for July if you'd like.
Well, is no action the same as a denial, or is it?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, we could just table it and say we'd like to get, you know, we'll get more detailed information. That's one way to do it. The other way, I think what Public Works was looking for guidance, would we even address this because it was last year? It predated this revised policy. That would be my inclination. If you had leaky pipe, there's no documentation the leaky pipes were fixed. Well, it says they were corrected. But,
yeah, I think it's way too late. Yeah, I'm sorry. I agree. I think it's way too late.
I mean, if they were going to have an abatement request, I would have thought it would have come in last May, like a year ago. And yet they've chosen not to pay the bill at all since then, which is not really the way you do it.
Well, that's confusing me a little bit too, because if you look at the way and I don't know who made this list, but if you go down and you look at it, it has amount due and then it has a balance. And the balance matches the amount billed. It's like there's no carryover from bill to bill. I'm confused about this statement, the utility billing statement, unless they've paid on it. So that would imply that they've paid something on it. The fact that the balance is not continuing to go up and the amount due is not continuing to go up until you get to the last one. And it says utility billing total due, and there it's all adding them all up. So I'm confused about this statement. It seems like it's, I don't know, maybe they just didn't do a move, you know, a running total on the balance side. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, it seems, if I'm again, without doing the detailed math, up to the end of January, it was around $185,000 due going back into, well, to the beginning of 2019. If you look at the first page, the request form, they talk about the amount of bill being $152,000 and change up to the end of September of 19. So if you take, and again, because the due date, I guess the bill date, September 30th. So if you subtract the $35,000 and change from $185,000, it's around $150,000. So if you throw some interest in there or whatever, that's where the $152,000 comes from. It would appear. But you're right, either way, they haven't paid the bill in all of 2019. That sort of bothers me. Any other observations that I'm missing? I would make a motion that we deny their abatement request for two reasons. One is a lack of documentation of what they're actually asking for. And two, that the rest of the bill appears to be normal, and yet they haven't paid on it. So they, don't, let's say, deserve an abatement if they're not paying on a normal bill in which they incurred the usage of the water and sewer services. I'll distill that a little bit, but that's the essence of my motion. Any second?
I'll second that.
So we will be voting. The motion and second is to deny an abatement request as somewhat presented in the paperwork on file. And I will vote aye on that motion and second.
Sorry, Bob, just one other question is, so if this is denied, do they have the option of submitting another request with more information if there was anything that could change their case?
I guess they would have that option, and we would have the option of accepting that or not. Typically, if someone doesn't agree with our decision, then they go right to the select board, which I'd prefer not to do.
Okay.
So that's why I made it a two-part. One part of it is the fact that there's not a lot of documentation. They're not even asking for a particular abatement request. So I guess what I'm saying is the paperwork presented is denied. So if they want to come back, I guess, with a more fine-tuned request, sure, we'll look at it. But the presented request, which is basically nothing, they're not actually even asking for a specific number. I move that we deny. So that's where that's my position, and that's what we're voting on. That with the information presented, that there's no abatement given.
Okay.
So how would you vote, Mark?
I'll vote aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Kelly?
Aye.
Carl?
Aye.
And Molly?
Aye.
Thank you all. I will present the associated information, and that does it for the water and sewer abatements. The rest of the meeting will be basically just an overview, very quick overview of the regular business agenda items. Regarding the utilities operations, as you might imagine, that all any tours that we have requested of the certainly of the wastewater plant have been put on hold due to social distancing and the interest in not having more than 10 people congregate at once. So Matt Berube has indicated that there would be a tour and a groundbreaking, or not a groundbreaking, ribbon cutting sometime, hopefully this year, and we'll have to sort of see how things go. Also, in the operations report, Jennifer had wanted me to pass along that her staff, the public works staff, is doing an incredible job, an outstanding job of working within the limitations of what COVID-19 has presented. Still providing services to the public, not necessarily going in houses on a frequent basis, but doing what they can to help ratepayers and continuing to provide service for both utilities. So kudos to them. And Jen wanted us to have a shout out for her staff. And then regarding the financial reports, those were passed along a few weeks ago. If anyone has any questions, we can address those. But effectively, as you saw, there was a large payment on the sewer bond at the end of last year, which we had talked about, and there'll be another large one at the end of 2020. And we save several $1 million in interest by prepaying on the note that way. And Russ has indicated he will continue to keep an eye on the receivables and see how that might impact the necessity of adjusting rates sometime later this year. Right now, the rates seem to be fine, but if there are some delinquencies and a lengthening of the receivables to the 60 and 90-day period, we may have to adjust things if cash flow is tight toward the end of the year. So did anybody have any questions on specific items of the financial reports? Seeing none, there's no new business and no other business at this time. Our next scheduled meeting would be on Wednesday, July 8th. In all probability, it will be a similar format to what we're doing right here, but we'll keep everyone posted, and I will get the information on the two tabled items, or the one tabled item to Public Works for our review in July.
I have a quick question.
Follow-up questions, Carl?
Are you sitting in front of a blue screen, a green screen, or is that are you outside, or
no? You have the parkway or the powder mill view across the river.
So
you have the option on Zoom of changing to a virtual. So
okay,
you can download a picture. It's just I want everybody to feel like we're doing this from Exeter and not some random.
Okay, so people would have to look at my room if I downloaded that. Okay.
You have to have an up-to-date computer, which is the problem.
Well, my computer's okay. It's I got the computer last fall, so I don't think it's that old. But,
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, any other comments or questions from the committee? Thank you for your weighing in on this and the discussion of the abatements, and